Hello and welcome to this HTML tutorial. In this tutorial we will see HTML styles, how to connect CSS to your HTML, and there are three ways we can use CSS in HTML, and we will see that. And we will also see classes and IDs in HTML. Now we will go back to our previous HTML documents, or we can use a new document. Anyways, let's delete everything inside our body. Then let's call this HTML styles. Now there are three ways. There are two ways we could add CSS into our HTML. One is the inline CSS, which is, for example, we have an h1 maybe a hello world text. Let's save it. Go to our folder, open with whatever browser you have. Okay, let me make it this way. Okay, we have this hello world over here. Now if we want to style this, for example, we just come next to the h1 and we will use the style attributes. Now we will add color of red and save it, then refresh. You can see our text is red, so you could add styles this way. One way of using CSS is the inline this is the inline CSS. Okay, the next one is internal CSS. Now in internal CSS, what you do is you will go to a section of your HTML, usually in this head part, and you'll, for example, have an h2 what's up. So this text over here, the what's up h2, and you can select it using the internal CSS this way. Then, for example, give it a color of blue. Now you can see the color is blue. You can add more properties over here. For example, you could have a font family of sans serif, for example. And you can see the CSS property is working. You can also add a property after a semicolon inside the inline CSS. For example, you can add background color of something like black. So you can see the background color is being applied. Now don't forget to have the semicolon. The third way we could include our CSS is the external CSS. And the external CSS works like, okay, let's have an h3. What's up, dear Daigi programmer fans? Okay, now you can see the text is working. So you can style this h3 text, for example, using an external CSS. You need to create a new file. For example, usually you give it a name, style.css, main.css. Anyways, you can use any name you want. Like for example, in our case, h3.css, because we want to style h3. So we will name it h3.css. Then go to our head, then link. Okay, I have the autofill, but I'm just gonna write the code so that you can learn. So link rel equals to style sheet relationship, then hyperreference. Inside this attribute, what you need is the CSS file you want to include. Then the next one is the type. This is optional, but it's good to have it. We are adding a CSS file, so use the text slash CSS. Then in our hyperreference, we need to include our h3.css. Now you save it. Now anything you put in your h3, for example, for your body, a background color of white, for example, sorry, yellow. Let's make it yellow. Then refresh. You can see it's working. And for our h3 over here, let's have a font family of sans serif. Okay, and maybe a color of white, or maybe, yeah. Anyways, you can use this 3 ways of adding CSS into your HTML. Now, together with this, I want to show you what IDs and classes are. So we have ID, and class. Now you use IDs and classes to select your elements later on your HTML, on your CSS or your JavaScript. Now, for example, in our style attribute, we have selected our h2 using the tag selector or the tag name or the element selector. We could instead use a class. Give it a class. Now remember, classes can be used multiple times and IDs are unique. So let me add classes over here. Let's have a paragraph. Okay. Then for this paragraph over here, let's give it a class of para1. Then some lorem ipsum characters. Okay, so now you refresh, we have our paragraph. Now we can select this para1 going to the h3. Then for classes we will use the period or the dot. Now for example, if you want the color to be some type of orange, for example, it works this way. Or maybe it really doesn't matter for now, but this is how it really works. Yeah. maybe you want to give it this tutorial is not about CSS, but I just want to show you what you could do. And also give it a sensitive font for the body so that you can select everything. So okay, now it looks good, I guess. Now this is how classes work. Now when we come to IDs, as I've told you, IDs are unique. So let's use the div element for this. And inside this div, we will have an ID as an attribute. So let's have this div called maybe container. This div might contain many divs inside, but let us just use the lorem ipsum again. 10 characters of lorem ipsum. Now in this div ID, we will go to our CSS and select it using the ID selector, which is denoted by the hashtag. Now we will go back in its container, hashtag container. Remember, hashtags are for IDs and periods are for classes. Now inside the container, we will give it a width of 300 pixel. You need to remember the last tutorial about blocking inline live elements. Give it white. Okay. Now this is our element over here. We can control the width and everything. We can have a color of blue, maybe. Then it works this way. Now we are styling our elements. This is an important part in your web development journey. So in the next tutorial, we will see more about HTML